Good evening, everybody, and welcome this evening to some more F3 action here in PSGL. Tonight we are racing at France at Paul Ricard, and it is round 2, of course, of the PS F3 division. And on this Monday night, we do only have 14 drivers with us, but these are 14 talented drivers, all going to be going at it for the race win here today. And because, of course, early in the season, we don't know too much. If you tuned in last week at Bahrain, it was a fairly entertaining race, I do have to say. And, of course, I was on my own last week, and it looks like I'm on my own again this week, unfortunately. Whereas usually I would be with Noah Clark. But that's no worry. We can work through this together, of course. It's fun. But yeah, hopefully everyone is doing alright this evening, and hopefully everyone is prepared for some very, very good racing. As I'm trying to find who is the person up ahead. It is actually Ecos Menno. But yeah, so yeah, on my own this evening. Unfortunate again, but at the end of the day, it is what it is, and we have to move forward. But yeah, for the championship last week, we do have quite a few names in here who were here last week, including, not including, sorry, the championship leader WOR Falk, which gives a really good opportunity for IFR Jensen. I'm not even sure if he's here at the moment. So actually, the person who's got the best opportunity to take the lead of the championship is Shazoo Joey in the Aston Martin, and all around him aren't actually here. So interesting night here for Joey. He's got quite a good night ahead of him. All he needs is a good result, and he takes the lead of the championship. But of course, he would need P4 to do that. Well, at least P4 to do that. But anyway, Ecos Menno is the first person on track. He's going to be the first one to start and finish a lap in his Williams, and he has had a good lap so far. He's now coming down the Mestral Straight as he comes into the chicane. Very quick through here, then off the exit as well, straight to 4, trying to get on the power nice and early like he has done. The Williams driver looking quite strong on his lap so far, but coming into sector 3 is not very easy at all. Those tyres will start to go on them a little bit, particularly around these long corners. This one should be fine. Watch the wheel, he could potentially have a little bit of a bite of oversteer. Doesn't there, so he's had a good line through there. This is the corner that can be quite tricky. He's kept it committed. He has short shifted as well to 5th gear to get better on the traction, of course, with the lower revs, as he comes through now to the final 2 corners. Final corner, a little bit of a lock up on that inside there, but he comes to the start finish straight to finish his lap. And what's the first lap? What's the benchmark we're going to set? It's a 27.9 on the soft tyres. So a good start there for Ecos Menno, but expect that to be beaten in this session. Expect us to get down to business into the low 27s. I really doubt we'll get into the high 26s, but it's possible. But expect us to get some very low, much lower times than the 27.9. And there's one of them, IFR Jensen, who is actually here tonight, so apologies about that I missed him. It's because he's in a McLaren, but he's not actually in a McLaren, he's a reserve. So that's where I got a bit confused, but he is here tonight, actually. And at the moment, he is on top spot, but 2 cars only done a lap, so it's not much comparison, really, we can go off at the moment. What do you mean 9 people? There's 14. I think you got your numbers a bit mixed up there. Anyway, it doesn't seem to matter. And we've got 15 now, so someone's just joined the session. I think that's Tom Robbo, who did actually have a few problems actually getting into the session. So, glad to see we got 15, not 14. One more is better. Well, it's better, let's be honest. F13 we have Shazoo Joey. Yeah. No, it's F3 at the moment. Trap Formula. I'm pretty sure you race on Monday, so you've got some qualifying to do as well. And instead of trash talking, get on with your lap. But anyway, Shazoo Law goes into P2 with a .8 there. F1 Orica goes into P3 then as well. So Menno's time isn't actually very competitive compared to the other guys. Oh, that's... yeah, I do read the comments. It's because I'm on my own. That's the problem. I'm on my own at the moment because, unfortunately, my commentator's been away for personal reasons recent, so I'm on my own. So I like to create a little bit more of an atmosphere with the with the community, of course. But it doesn't seem to matter. We obviously prioritise the action going on, of course, and in the race I probably won't look much as that. But anyway. Lewis, he is on a lap. Lewis Curtis, as he's known as, in the Ferrari. He looks quite speculative in this F3 division. Many people tipping him potentially for a title hunt, and he had a good round in Bahrain, finishing in P6 in the end. So he'll be happy with his start to the season, but he's looking to have a consistent season, which obviously will provide him to have a good performance here. He's in P6 now, but he hasn't obviously set a lap time, so we can't exactly say he's in P6, and that is not exactly a very good lap from him. The only man into the 28s as well, all the rest in the 27s. So Lewis, not exactly a very strong lap from him. Let's look at Sem, because Sem's coming towards the end of his lap now. One of the drivers that's kind of a bit hidden. We haven't got much sort of records on how well Sem does, but this time he is a reserve, so he's in here tonight, obviously temporarily, as he goes P4, so a 27.9. He's actually got the exact same time as Ecos Menno there, so fair play to him. His teammate, who has actually got into the lobby, hopefully no troubles really with connection issues during the qualifying race potentially, but nice to see him in the lobby though, is IFR Tom Robbo. The Dutch Missile, he started a lap. Let's look further back. Is there anyone towards the end? Not Cortez. And what about Rattel Stifler? Also behind. So actually it is the Dutch Missile who is, well, he was furthest ahead. Now it's Cortez, because the Dutch Missile has ended up spinning there. So it is Cortez furthest ahead on this lap. All the rest obviously going to be on in laps or in the pits. How do you get into F3? Well, Adam has said by being fast, which is true. Okay, it is very, very true. You do need to be quite fast to get into this division, of course. If you want to know how obviously the system works, you've obviously got 13 tiers in PSGL. You know, you sign up for the league and everything, and there's a couple of evaluation things you have to do. And then obviously you get placed based on your performance, of course. You don't just get into F3, it's kind of like a qualifying system, where you need a bunch of things. I think it's an evaluation race and 2 time trials at 2 selected tracks. I'm not sure, but I do believe the Discord is in the description. In the description. It isn't. That is probably something for, in my opinion, that is something for me to probably bring up to the management to see if they can put that into the description. Be quite helpful for people. You can also find PSGL though on Twitter, which is obviously at PremierSimGL. You can find them there on Twitter, and on there I believe you can find the Discord. So yeah, you'll find the Discord link somewhere. Let's just say that at the moment. But you can obviously watch these guys drive very fast, because they are all very, very quick. But anyway, back to the action. We've missed Cortez. He's gone on to pole position because of me rambling on about Discords and everything. But Cortez, he is the quickest. He was very quick last week as well. I think he got the pole position last week with a very good time, and you know he's already coming close out the gates this time around with a 27.3, which is actually almost just under 3/10 quicker than Rattel Stifler in the Ferrari, of course. And no Schumacher tonight. So Schumacher, who put on a great race display and almost ended up winning the race, of course, last week, but obviously got that penalty, plus obviously finishing in P2. It cost him the race win, and he is not here tonight. He's on vacation, and well, by the looks of his absence in the Discord, it obviously seems like he's away in Spain right now. So I hope he's enjoying his vacation, and potentially, if he's watching tonight, Hello Schumacher _1, of course. But anyway, to the action. Is that Kush? Oh, he's very, very, very oversteery through that corner. And I said this at the start of the stream. Through Sector 3 particularly, the tyres literally heat up to unimaginable temperatures. And because of that, drivers do tend to struggle with the tyre temps through there, and do tend to actually struggle getting the grip through there, as either Jensen goes in to P2. I believe it's Jensen or Jensen. If you pronounce it with a J, please tell me. If you don't, then woohoo. Tom Robbo caught in a bit of traffic ahead of him right now. Are they in? I think they're on outlaps, all of them, obviously. Jensen's on an in-lap, actually. And that's not going to help Tom Robbo. He's already invalidated. So only half the grid has actually completed a full lap yet. Still as, oh, Kryptonite, there we go, spinning through the final few corners. He wasn't on a representative lap simply because obviously he invalidated his lap, but it looks like he was possibly pushing. But yep, there he goes, round in his Alpine. But the Haas of Shazue Law coming through right now, looking to take it to the top guys. And I don't know how much he's up or down on his time. I didn't quite see the sector splits, of course, but and you kind of covered me there with the on-air thing at the top there. Don't think he improved anyway. He hasn't improved position, and that's what matters to the viewer, of course, is what time they can put in, well, the pole time they can put in, but also just more down to the fact of where can they place themselves on the grid. And Law doesn't move anywhere. F1 Orica then, I believe he raced last week. F1 Orica, he didn't score any points though, so he's looking to redeem himself this time around compared to last time. And it is getting a little bit overcast here, suggesting there could be rain. Obviously, if you watch the stream in the midweek, of course, for one of the PC tiers, any of them really, you would see what happens at this track. And when it does rain, if you know the experiences from last game, but it dries up very quickly. So France is very peculiar when there is a bit of weather. But anyway, F1 Orica, he will come across the line. He goes P2. That's more like it. We're getting closer now to that pole time of Cortez that literally beforehand looked a little bit unbeatable, but now is looking a little more beatable. Shazoo Joey then on his lap in the Aston Martin. He's looking to redeem himself after last week. He was very close to the victory, definitely in the contenders list for the victory and potentially for the championship this year. He's a very favourable and likeable character in the F1. A likely contender, of course, for the championship as well and for the race win today. He's on the controller, he's not on the wheel. I thought he was on the wheel, but it was a misconception. He is actually on the controller. And obviously this is one of the tracks that is quite difficult through the third sector. He's taking rather wide lines, isn't he, through this third sector, rather not hitting the apexes or anything, going quite wide. Wonder if that's compromising him a little bit as he comes through the fire. Only 3 minutes left. Alright, I'm gonna move over to my phone obviously to check out how the stream is doing. So yeah, that was a bit of a problem. So if there has been problems, I do apologise with everything. But we should be back now. We should be alright for the action. It was a problem beforehand. I think I've fixed it now, but yeah, no idea what's going on with my internet, to be honest. I have no idea, but hopefully it will be fixed very, very soon. It's very frustrating, and I do apologise again, for everyone's sake. But yeah, Tom Robbo, he's not on a lap, is he? So let's go to the Dutch missile. He's definitely not going to be on the lap then either. Kryptonite, I think, is has he just finished a lap or is he on a lap? Looks like he's on a lap then, coming through the corners. This is going to be his final lap, of course, like everyone's. It's a final fly for the Alpine driver. Is he going to have a good run? No, he's not. He's going to invalidate straight to Shazoo Law then, because he is going to be one of many to really get to the front. But I don't know if Law's actually on a proper lap. Looks slow off the off-board camera, but on the on-board he is obviously up to speed here as he's coming through the corners now into sector 3, nice and easy, and then through this corner can be quite difficult. He's confident through here, a little bit of a snap of oversteer though off the exit there, not exactly what he wanted, a little bit of a moment really obviously with the disconnect things as well, which is not good for him, but as he comes through the final corner in his Haas, let's see what he can do. And is he gonna challenge pole position? Not at all. In fact, he doesn't move up any positions. He does improve his time, but by a very, very small amount, very insignificant amount as well. The next one, probably to finish his lap, who will finish his lap, is Ecos Menno. I just missed exactly what the time is, and he's actually invalidated his lap, so it's not going to be the end. It's going to be the end of qualifying for him. Looking towards the end now, the next one to finish a lap will be IFR Jensen, one of the guys who is potentially going for pole position here, and oh, is he pushed a bit too much here? That is definitely going to be his lap over. I don't think he will be improving. And will Orica be improving? I mean, that's interesting. It says he's going through sector 2 right now, and why are we viewing a McLaren? We're meant to be viewing this man, Orica in the Mercedes. He's 2 tenths down though. That is the problem at the moment. Is Orica, I don't think, will be able to gain that time to Cortez, which means Cortez surely has the pole position now, unless Tom Robbo can do anything. He does get to finish a lap, and it's a 28.1. So Tom Robbo does get out well ahead then of Lewis, who is the final, who is on the back of the grid in terms of times. The Dutch missile didn't set a time, which means he's at the back of the grid. Then, so if you obviously left and you're like, the stream's gone down. The stream is obviously back up. Apologies, I've been having a bit of inconsistent moments with my internet. I do have a cable which I have put in now. Obviously, the things that will be constricting me, I would not be able to use my PC, which is quite unfortunate. But yeah, I am looking to get down to the bottom of what is going on with my internet, of course. I have no clue, but obviously the cable should make things way more stable. Obviously, unfortunately, I do also have a little bit of a cough, so apologies for that. What is PSGL F1 qualifying lap time as a comparison? PSGL F1 hasn't started yet, it's on at 8. But anyway, Cortez has pole from Orica, from Jensen, from Devon, from Isaac Kush, from Rattel Stifler. Kryptonite will start P7, 712 in P8, Law in P9, and the rest of the grid down to 15th. You've got to be quick before it goes. Which is probably my fault for reading the chat. Cohen calling his teammate a fraud. You don't have much support, do you, for your fellow Shizou teammate there? Should be a bit more supportive, that Cohen, to be honest. Poor Joey probably would be feeling that. That's a little bit of a puncher to the heart right there. But yeah, Blizzard's the that's convenient. Blizzard, as a comparison to F1. Probably in terms of time wise, I would say roughly on most tracks is a couple of tenths. I think the pole times probably would be separated about 5 tenths. If you look on PC F1, the PS F1 guys will be setting times probably arguably around a tenth or 2 slower than them. That's going to be your relevant sort of benchmark point to see how the F1 guys do, but they are obviously the quickest on the platform, since they are obviously done. And you know, I'm waffling on about that because I need to tell you that information because you asked for it, so I'm glad that I've done that. But it is raining, ladies and gentlemen, so obviously there is a lot of rain. Usually we see at France lobbies. I already told you about the PC lobbies about France seem to be quite frequent, and here today everything seems frequent as well. It's more like rain seems to be about everywhere. And yeah, just to confirm to you, Blizzard there, as you've just seen, a 27.1 was the pole in F2. It's a 27.3 here. And like I said, expect a high 26 for F1, unless it's a raining qualifying. We've seen a raining race here and a Haas on pole. Don't see that often, do you? A Haas on pole position, but Cuvier Cortez definitely leading that one. And I think that's his second pole of the season. He put a smashing lap in last week in Bahrain. and he's back here again, but this time he's got to show his wet pace and his wet skills, wet race skills, which can be different obviously to the dry racing skills. It's a whole different ball game now for these drivers. Some would have practiced the wet, others probably haven't, so potentially you're going to see a bit more of a division between performance for some drivers, depending on how comfortable they are in the wet conditions. Also, just like real life, of course, racing can get fairly messy. But I don't know how long this rain is going to be here for. In the chat though, guys, obviously QVR, Cortez on pole. Give me your top 3. I'd love to hear your wacky predictions, because obviously things can get pretty wacky in the wet conditions. And of course, again, don't forget to like, subscribe, and of course follow PSGL on Twitter at PremierSimGL. And you know, if you can find a Discord link somewhere, because I was talking about it earlier, join the Discords. Obviously there's a very big community there now. I'm not sure how many members they've got, but I'm for sure certain now it's well over 1,000. And obviously you can probably race as well. There's no sign-ups at the moment, but there usually is mid-season sign-ups where you can obviously do what is required of you and then sign up if you are interested obviously to race in this league. Everyone is eligible. The eligibility though stands for this tier is that you have to be no assist, so no line, no ABS, no traction, nothing. Everything has to be off. It's basically elite racing, and that is the case for pretty much most of the Monday tiers, F1 to F5. F6, I believe, to F8 is line only, and then F9 to F13 is all assists. So depending on your pace and your assists, that'll be where you will be placed, of course. Anyway, enough about that. I think I've told you all you need to know, potentially to sign up to encourage you. And let's see what everyone can do tonight. You're going for the Dutch Missile Blizzard. Very interesting, that is. So from the back to the front for the Aston Martin driver you are predicting, which is, it's a very bold prediction, but I like it. I like bold. And it obviously means that potentially we're in for a very big cracker of a race. But anyway, lights will get on then to get underway for this French Grand Prix. They're all on now. And we're going in France, and it's a good start from Cortez away. A very slow start for everyone, though, of course, in the wet conditions. Any early movers down to turn 1, everyone seems to be in the same position, but into the first corner, anyone spun around. Usually it gets quite messy through here, but everyone seems to be relatively clean. And you know what? They've all got through the first corner. That's brilliant to see. Very rarely you see that, of course, as well. So very good from all these. How well these guys do race, but near towards the midfield, we're going 3 wide into this corner. Very tricky through these first couple of corners into turn 5 as well, coming through down to turn 6. Yep, sorry, turn 6 to turn 7, and oh, there's a guy off. It's Joey there, and he's out of the race as well. And that's him into the barrier. And I said about the clean start, someone's obviously had a bit of wheel spin there and has clipped that Aston Martin, and he is gone. We've got a virtual safety car in this race, so early action with him. It looked like Cortez has got away very, very quickly, though, at the front. He's going to be very, very dangerous in this race, it looks like, in terms of pace. But F1 Orica keeps his second place. Jensen in third. Isaac Kush into fourth. Let's just look at any movers here. The biggest mover is the Dutch Missile. So, actually, Blizzard, that's a very interesting statement. You said the Dutch Blizzard could win, and well, he's up 4 positions, isn't he? So quite a positive start on the first lap for the other Aston Martin. As for Joey in that Aston Martin, obviously he was into the barrier and that was him gone. So quite messy start then for some people in the midfield, but it did look like it could have been good. As interestingly, we've got Devon into the pits, so I wonder if that was Devon that hit into Joey or something, and he's got a bit of damage somewhere. Remember though, you can only change your front wing in the pits. You cannot fix floor damage or anything else, I don't believe. So for him, it could be race over already. For him, as these two go in side by side into the corner. It's not the battle you probably want to see, Tom, Robbo and Law, but they are going side by side, and this is fairly entertaining, isn't it, between Lewis and Tom. They're giving us a right old show, but I do think Lewis has got out ahead of Tom Robbo. He's got well ahead of him now, so maybe there's a chance of him. And oh, well, I jinxed the Dutch missile. We all jinxed the Dutch missile then, because he's been spun round as well. That is him into 12th place, and well, he's got a lot of regathering to do. Whether he's had something with whether Kryptonite was also the problem with Joey, I'm not sure, because he's had to pit as well. His luck has been quite poor at the start of this season. So Kryptonite down in P14, Devon into P13. Those two luck haven't been good, and of course the Dutch missile being spun around by someone, I'm not entirely sure who. Would love a replay system on the F1 game. It'd be absolutely awesome. And oh my goodness, is that Kush and Rattel Stifler going a little bit wide there? Almost opened the door for Menno, but Menno's opened the door for Sem, and Sem goes through into 6th place now. So very good from the Dutch driver, getting past Ecos Menno in his Williams. So good start for him as well. Sem, I believe, has moved up a couple positions. There we go, 2 positions, as Isaac Kush comes into the pits. So early pit stops for people, which is interesting to see. I'm not sure entirely what that means in this race, why they're all pitting early, whether they have got damage or not. But yeah, so some interesting strategies going on for some of these guys, whether it is something they're doing deliberately or not. But anyway, Orca into 2nd place, Jensen into 3rd at the moment. Rattel Stifler has had a lot of problems with Isaac Kush, and Isaac Kush obviously in the pits now. Rattel Stifler has been let to go free. It's not what you like to see early on though from the Dutch missile. He has got himself a free second time penalty already. It's only lap 3. There's no need to get the penalties this early, as Ecos Menno really struggling for the grip on board of that car, that Williams car. He will have Shazoo Law coming up behind him. I wonder if things potentially are drying. But that would really aid in the whole thing with Isaac Kush going on to fresh intermediate. So really not sure about that strategy, but whether things are going to dry up or get a bit more damp, I'm not entirely sure at the moment. As we still see Cortez lead in his Haas, it doesn't look like Orica, is going to get close anytime soon, and Sem seems to be struggling to close in to Rattel Stifler. So a few difficulties there as side by side go Lewis and Law. Lewis looking to make up more positions after getting past Tom Robbo. These two are at the back. They've caught already up to the back of this pack, and can Lewis make the move on Shazoo Law? He'll have to wait a little bit longer. He's going to be quite creative here, I think. He's going to try look to the outside. He's not going to send him here though on the inside. He hasn't really got near enough close to him to get there. But here we go then. So Lewis, he's looking to close on Law, but it's not close enough. There's a 5-second penalty for the Dutch missile, and he's retired from the session. So Blizzard, your prediction is already gone in the bin. And for Aston Martin's race entirely, it's also in the bin for both of them. They're both out of the race. But Lewis, at the moment, he is struggling really to get past that Haas. Both the Haas's is... But obviously, it is always a struggle to get past in the wet conditions. You've got to be so confident on the brakes and the throttle, of course, to get on to it nice and early. But Lewis, he'd be happy to stick behind. Excuse me. It's a little bit of a train right now, of course. And Lewis obviously struggling to make it through at the moment. But this is a little bit of a train sparking from a Blaze at the moment, and a Blaze is actually at the front of it. He's lost a lot of time. Menno is trying to close that gap in. Lewis is also trying to close the gap, and he's right behind the other Haas of Law at the moment. Whether he'll look for for a move here, it's quite a popular corner, particularly in the wet conditions, to go for a move. Lewis thinks about it, but I don't think he's really set the car up very well to go for a move, so Lewis in the Ferrari will just have to stick behind for a little bit longer, as Menno and Blaze go for a little bit of a wider line there. Could have opened the door a little bit for Law, but nothing too serious for a move for any of them, as in this midfield battle is pretty much the only place we're looking at is a big train of 5 cars. No DRS to aid any overtaking. It has to be done naturally, just like you saw before 2011, I believe, when obviously DRS came in. So these drivers have got to be quite creative with their moves, and we could see things get a little bit more spicy than usual. And as we see now, Lewis trying to close in on Law. Law still... he's still quite a distance ahead of Lewis, so Lewis is just not going to be close enough for a move. Law potentially could look for Menno as well. And Menno particularly has looked like he struggled on the onboard. He does need a good exit here to make sure he stays ahead, and that's not what we would have wanted. A little bit of a slide out of turn 7. And the Ecos driver in the Williams, though, he's going to be quite far ahead to make sure no overtake can be done, and Lewis is for sure this time nowhere near close enough for a move. Looking further up, though, this looks like a potential move. I wonder if Orica's had a little bit of a problem, and that's an easy move for IFR Jensen. Is Orica going to try and come back at the McLaren? He's maybe looking for that inside. He's got a little bit over the curb, though, and that curb may have cost him a potential chance to look to the inside. But he will be he'll be fine with that. But now is an opportunity for Lewis on Law as he looks to the outside. Does the Ferrari driver, but Law just blocking him off nicely there and keeping ahead of position. But Lewis, oh, just if only he had the traction there, he would have been right onto the back of Law and would have been able to get past him. But it's not the case at the moment, and Lewis will have to be stuck behind a little bit longer than that has. And that's costing him more time, it seems, because the Blaze is not closing up to Sem anytime sooner. Sem is still trying to close in on Rattel Stifler, who's nowhere near this battle for second place, which is starting to extend now, so it does look like Orica will be gone, and that's not good news for Lewis. He's got himself a 3-second time penalty, so he's at the back of this thing. It's not exactly good to see him getting penalties early on, as he may have sold Law a little bit of a dummy there. Of course, looking to go on the inside of that corner of the chicane, and Law obviously took it. And Lewis saw the opportunity as Law went wide, but Law's kept his position though at the moment on Lewis. So Law has had some great defending, but this defending is costing them both so much time, as Law now side by side with Lewis into the chicane they go at turn 8. This will be very tricky for these two to get through. They have coordinated it well, but Law, he's slow on the entry there. He's obviously prioritising the exit, and he's done pretty well there to stick himself in 8th place, and there's no opportunity for Lewis to overtake just for now on that Haas. But it's seeming as wide as Fernando Alonso's Alpine in Hungary at the moment. But here's an opportunity for Lewis. Oh, he's just tapped the rear wheel, and again Law defending very, very well, and Lewis just not finding a way past at the moment, as Menno is now dropping behind WOR Blaze, who is now at the lead of this train. But there's not really a train anymore. It's a train of cars, but it's a bit wider than what you'd call a train. The train seems to be these three, or these four: Menno, Law, Lewis, and Tom Robbo towards the back. And obviously Menno is arguably out of that train as well. So Law, Lewis and Tom Robbo are the main three potentially for an overtake. But it is obviously much difficult in the wet conditions to make a move on drivers, as Menno still continues to try and close on the McLaren up ahead to keep within of, it would be in DRS range in the dry, but in the wets no DRS is possible. As Law goes a bit wide, he did, and same with Lewis, he went a little bit wide at the exit that corner. But it does obviously look like, unfortunately, no opportunity for any of these drivers to make an overtake at the moment. Excuse me again. But we will see overtakes hopefully soon. But Lewis, he's just tracking back in the chat. Or if anyone is speaking to anyone in this race, does anyone know if it's going to dry in this race, or is it going to stay wet for the entire race? It would be an interesting scenario, wet to dry scenario, since timing that switch to the soft tires, or to that. What's the forecast? That's what I want to know. I want to know the forecast for the rest of the race. Unfortunately, the game doesn't allow me to know the forecast, and I've got to be honest with you, aimbot. I don't speak Russian, or I don't see the Russian language, so unfortunately, I don't think I'm going to really get much information of that. Rain for the whole race, says Legend. So if it is rain for the whole race, we could see some interesting racing going on. If it's going to go dry, then potentially the same. So we're going to have a long race here. It looks like 8 laps out of 27, but also quite a strategic one. We obviously saw 3 guys pit in Devon, Isaac, Kush and Kryptonite. We're not too sure whether those 3 were because of damage or not, or whether it was a tactical thing from them, because some people don't think the 1 stop is worthy, but doing a 2 stop in this case and putting on fresh tyres immediately, it could work, but obviously who knows. And we're looking still at this battle for P7 at the moment, since no one else seems to be quite close for a battle. This one's quite close though for P8. Looking behind, Lewis looks like the only one potentially to make a move anytime soon, as all Menno's gone off the track there. He's hit a couple of the meter boards there, which is a problem. And Lewis, so he's just not close enough, is he? On Law. Law just seems to be keeping his cool, keeping ahead, and a little bit of overdriving potentially from Lewis, as just seen there with the wheel spin. It could cost him, particularly when Tom Robbo's behind him. He's been probably eyeing up and waiting for a proper mistake for a long time, and potentially looking for a move very soon. But Lewis doesn't like the quicker driver on these on these intermediate tyres. He does look like the quicker driver at the moment than Law. The problem is, of course, he's not making the move. Not only is he not making the move, he's also potentially struggling with Tom Robbo behind as well, who could be right on his tail. As Isaac Kush actually retires from the session, so he's out. There goes an AlphaTauri. So 2 Aston Martins, 1 AlphaTauri is out of this race. We've still got 1 AlphaTauri remaining in Devon, but I'm not entirely sure where the rest of his race will go. Same with Kryptonite particularly, but probably hoping for a safety car, I can't lie, in this race probably for them. But Ecos Menno, he is just cruising in 7th place right now, while Law is trying to keep Lewis behind, who's been looking to overtake for quite a while, and he has just not been able to get the move done. Robbo was close to Lewis at the start of the slap. He's fell back quite a bit. As Lewis prioritised going a little bit wider, trying to get a better exit off the corner. Just not happening for the Ferrari driver. He's just not able to close that gap to the Haas ahead of him. And the Haas, there seems to be a trend here with these drivers. They seem to get a bit closer, and as soon as they get a bit closer, they go away. It's a little bit like real life F1 actually, with the dirty air, but the dirty air is really the problem, really, on this game that is probably causing this. Like at the moment, it just seems more like more of a conventional issue between them. The wet conditions is just not really working out, and Lewis hasn't exactly looked like he's not been a threat to Law. He's had many opportunities to overtake. He's just not been able to do it, and Law, he has been close to Menno, but he just hasn't been close enough to even eye up a move on that Williams. So it's very close between these four just battling. It's the only real battle on the track at the moment, and Tom Robbo gets himself a 3-second time penalty. A few time penalties already seen here, and now is this the opportunity that Lewis has been looking for. He uses his overtake, of course, but saving ERS isn't exactly hard in the wet conditions. He's just going to back out. Law, though, breaks much later, so Law obviously trying something a bit different. It doesn't really work out. Momentum was on Lewis's side, but, well, he's into the wall. That's not exactly what the Ferrari driver would have wanted. He was very, very close to that Haas, and unfortunately for him, that's him in the wall. He's not out of the race, though, fortunately, but I say that's probably ruined his race plans. And obviously that's brought out a VSC as well, so this could be an opportunity potentially for Jensen, who for some reason is this far out, to go into the pits. You know what? He's decided to choose that. So into the pits comes IFI Jensen. Whether he thinks he can go to the end on one more set, Orca also goes into the pits. So this could be a very good strategy from Jensen, or this could be very good for Cortez, because I'm not entirely sure what the tyre life is on the intermediates, but at the moment under this virtual safety car, if they can guarantee make it to the end, it could be a very, very, very good move for the guys who have pitted. Someone who potentially it could have been good for is potentially Devon. I'm not too sure about Kryptonite, but for Devon it could be a good move. Kryptonite actually stays out, which is interesting. I don't believe he'll be able to go to the end from 2 laps old intermediates. Sorry, from lap 2 intermediates. I'll be very, very surprised if he does. But he does pass Devon, and he does get a little bit of race action, so perhaps that's what he's looking for. But I don't think he's worrying too much about the points. He just wants to have some race action, perhaps, which is why he stayed out. Well, for Devon, he's actually closed in on Lewis quite a bit, but I think that's because Lewis had a wing change, didn't he? So, unfortunate for him. But yeah, on new intermediates now, and going probably to the end, I think Jensen will be your race leader once Cortez. So yeah. At the moment, it looks like that will be the case. As the gap to the leader is 20 seconds. We'll just hold it on this for now because racing isn't really going to get underway until the end. I think the end is going to be when racing really, really gets going in this race. But IFR Jensen, he is looking strong at the moment. You want me to show penalty? Alright, I'll show you penalties. There's the penalties right now. So, the 4 drivers who have penalties, of course, only have 3 seconds of penalties at the moment. So, that could be quite decisive towards the end of the race. But, more interestingly... And, oh, Jensen! Oh, dear. Jensen's had an absolute slide out of that corner. I wasn't expecting that. And he's leading this race as well, technically speaking. He's the net leader of this race. He needs to really watch himself there. Because that could have been a real big problem for for the McLaren driver. It could have been a real problem, but he has been able to keep it out of the wall, or keep it well away from those problems, which is fortunate. But yeah, that would have been a little bit of a heart attack moment, a little bit of a Code Brown moment, as perhaps you'd want to say so. For that one for Jensen, but he does stay out ahead again, and Orca is in 5th place. He stays in 5th place, just behind Jensen, but I think Jensen, he's got it quite clear of them. There's Kryptonite and Devon. This is the best battling you've got at the moment, the closest one you've got. Kryptonite and Devon for P11. It's not exactly the most funnest battles, I know. And then we're not encouraged really to show the back marker battles, but this is really the only one which we've really got at the moment. So a lot of them are just following each other for now. Obviously it will really get down to things once we get to the end. But at the moment it does look like Kryptonite is just about keeping ahead of that AlphaTauri. But the AlphaTauri of Devon is most certainly not gone as of yet. But he will try and close in on Kryptonite, for sure. He will try and get the position potentially, and he's trying to take a bit more wacky lines to get by. And I tell you what, on the onboard, that AlphaTauri looks rather interesting. But here we go. Devon then to the inside of Kryptonite, and there we go. Position nice and easily handed on that Alpine driver. Will Kryptonite try and come back on Devon? I'm not too sure. I just don't know if he's got the grip really. His tyres are a lot older than what Devon's are. So it does look like obviously Devon is going to keep ahead of Kryptonite at the moment. But Ecos Menno, he is trying to close on a blaze. So beforehand he was struggling well behind the McLaren driver, but he seems to have catched up a bit now, which is good for him on his hands, of course. And Nikos Menno in his Williams just trying to keep close. And Cortez finally takes it to the pit stops. This is going to be very interesting. Has Jensen caused a masterclass here in his McLaren? Has he got himself out in front of that Haas? Interestingly, both Haas's pit. That can be a problem for the game, of course, as it struggles to recognise that you can double stack in a way. So hopefully, for Law's sake, it isn't a problem. But there we go. Jensen out of the pits first, Orica second, Rattel Stifler third, and into fourth goes Cortez. So Cortez has some big gaining to do at the moment. And Law, I feared that would have happened, and it does look like it has happened to Law, unfortunately. Law, well, not exactly great, is it, for the Shizou driver in the Haas. He's come out behind Tom Robbo, and I do think it is that double stack sort of glitch this game has. It's an absolute pain, I do have to say. There is a bunch of things that the game needs to just turn around and say, yeah, we need this, such as the pit stops online. They need to really, really modify that, because if they really want things to be equal and everything, they shouldn't have pit stop sort of like delays or anything, or being held up in the pits. It should be just full on all out racing, but you know, I guess we've got to stick to realism, haven't we? At the end of the day, we want realism, we get realism through that. But anyway, back at the front, Orica does seems to have closed a little bit to Jensen, but not enough really to see himself as a threat at the moment. Person to watch out for. The person to watch out for at the moment, of course, is QVR Cortez. As of course he will be closing to the front three, and the front three becomes the front four really now, as they're all inside 1 second of each other, so slipstream will be actually a guarantee for these guys. As Rattel Stifler actually is the quickest on track, so the Ferrari looking quite close and potentially got a bit of momentum to the guys up ahead. This could be a very entertaining second half of the race then, potentially for us. But Jensen, he's in the lead. He's quite clearly in the lead. Orica in P2 as well, and Rattel Stifler in P3. Devon's actually the quickest on track at the moment, so it's more of a what could have been for Devon at the moment, as of course he's at the back of the grid because he had damage on the opening few laps, which cost him. There's Tom Romo. He's picking up more penalties. That's not what he wants to see. More penalties doesn't exactly help him at all, as Rattel Stifler, he's trying to close on Orica, but Orica is just out ahead. He is just up ahead on the road, but he's lost a lot of time to Jensen. I think Jensen now is trying to clear away from these guys behind him in the McLaren there. I'm not exactly sure whether Orica's had a mistake or not. He's losing time now to that McLaren. So I believe F1 has started, which is why all the viewerships has dropped. So wonderful to see, and I've got to say, you know, the action has been a pretty bare bones, unfortunately. Nothing more we could do. The wet conditions do tend to be very, very difficult to put on good races. Slipstream's just not strong enough for some of these guys, but not only that, you know, none of these guys want to crash or anything. So what happens is they're too cautious to close up. And they're all in position as well, which probably is the problem. As Cortez, he is the one chasing, and he does look relatively quick though compared to these guys. But the thing is, can he get the overtakes done? That's what we want to see. We want to see overtaking. We want to see this real big action. At the moment, it's looking relatively like a struggle for that. But yeah, Rattel Stifler, he is closing on Orica, and Orica potentially looking to really, really struggle now. I think Cortez may have had a mistake as well, so Rattel Stifler, he has a penalty. And finally, are we going to see an overtake here? The Ferrari really having a go on the Mercedes. He's not got the overtake done, but that's more like it, lads. We've got some overtaking going on finally in this session. It's taken a while. It's taken 16 laps, almost 17 laps to get an overtake on this, but we've seen obviously a few opportunities from Lewis, the other Ferrari. So both the Ferraris have been showing their intentions to make moves up the field, but no Ferrari has recorded really a proper overtake as of yet. But Rattel Stifler is looking to change that then, and a little bit of a change of mood in this race then, ladies and gentlemen, as Orica seems to be struggling a little bit at the moment, but Rattel Stifler has fell behind a little bit further. Cuvier Cortez, he's closed in the gap now by 6/10 in that third sector, so that third sector seems to be pretty amazing from the Haas driver, but he's actually very quick through here as well. So here he comes, he's right onto the back of Rattel Stifler now, and Stifler, he's just having a little bit of moments out the exit of corners, a little bit of wheel spin. This does open the door potentially for this Haas driver of Cuvier Cortez in the slipstream now. He's got the momentum, he's had a very strong last few sectors. Here he comes in, finally are we going to see a move in this race. Here he comes, Cortez down the inside, he's going to stick there to the outside, he's going to benefit off the exit here. Watch out for him on the exit. Is he got on the throttle nice and easy? No, he hasn't. He's still going to stick behind at the moment, but he is going to be looking, he's going to be eyeing up for a move onto the next corner, but he's not had a momentum through that corner, which has not aided him here through this long right-hander. He'll have to go again and find another place to overtake at the moment. I do know how good and how used that corner is. So obviously for Cortez, he was trying to do that, but he didn't really have the best execution, did he? But he is getting closer now to this Ferrari, who is now starting to fall under a bit of pressure from Cuvier Cortez, and he was really the favourite of this race going into the race, and he looked quite comfortable in the lead. But of course, that virtual safety car and the option not to pit for Cortez kind of really muddled up his race. But he is still 4 tenths behind Rattel Stifler in the Ferrari, who seems to be a bit over the place at the moment. And oh, he's braking there very close for Cortez now. And he just doesn't need the corner that he had last time, does the Ferrari. And it looks like he's got a much neater exit this time, so no overtake to be done right now, as Orica surprisingly actually going on to the wet patch there. Does that suggest a dry patch really starting to show on the racing line, the optimal racing line? Who knows? But yeah, at the moment, once again, we just see behind Cuvier Cortez, he is trying to close onto Rattel Stifler. Stifler's actually got some great momentum on Orica right now, but Orica, surely he's got a gap ahead that Rattel Stifler can open the door for, but you know, he thought about it, did the Ferrari, but yeah, not close enough for a move at the moment. But the Ferrari, he is closing that gap very much so, and potentially he has a great opportunity for an overtake very soon. And Cuvier Cortez as well. He's trying to line up for both of them, is that Haas driver. And for sure he's trying to line up on a potential move on the Ferrari. At the moment, it's just not happening. And speaking about Cortez, he's got himself a penalty now. So yeah, at the moment we've still got Jensen in P1, Orica P2, Rattel Stifler P3, and Cortez P4. Cortez though picks up a penalty, kind of has damaged his chances for potentially a race win. Even a podium could be in doubt. But Rattel Stifler, he also does have a penalty. And I just want to check the penalties. 3 seconds for everyone but Lewis and Tom Robbo, who are both on 6. Everyone else is clean. But yeah, Cortez sitting behind, and Rattalino, go job rate. Who is job rate? Is that a nickname for someone? Or is that a typo? Just have to question it. I do like when drivers do people support particular drivers or just drivers in general. It's quite a nice gesture, particularly if you're someone who is coming in as a casual, not as a friend or anything. You just pick a driver out there, like them. I suppose I do like that, to be honest. So if it is a driver, not job rate, legitimately, that would be a bit interesting. I do have to say, but anyway. Cortez trying to close in on Rattel Stifler. Stifler just sitting ahead though as it stands. But yeah, Cortez, he's not close enough for a move, is he? At the moment, it's just follow the leader at the moment, and the action is just not strong enough really to deliver us the race we would have wanted. You know, it is very difficult for these guys. You know, we cannot blame the guys on track for it. Just like real life and everything, you want better racing and everything. It's impossible, really. The drivers are doing the best they can in real life, like, to provide the best racing they can, but also provide themselves the best performance they can. It's obviously the same sort of thing here. We cannot see, obviously, Rattel Stifler, for example, just slowing down to let drivers have an opportunity to improve the action, because that's just corruption and forced entertainment. And, you know, forced entertainment is never good. Is it? It's just predictable nonsense. And you know, you always think about it this way with F1 in general, or just any sport in general. If you get boring races or boring performances or something like that, then you know it just makes the things more exciting. So you look at overtakes, for example, in F1, because overtakes are much less frequent and everything. When they happen, they seem more spectacular. Whereas in MotoGP, and I mean, this is the problem I had with MotoGP when I tried to get into it, is that of course there's a lot of overtakes, which makes it exciting, right? But the problem is when there's too much overtakes and everything, the overtakes just seem less significant. But that's just a me problem. That's nothing really to worry about. But yeah, so we will obviously get boring races or boring times in races, but the drivers are trying to entertain you. It's just obviously very difficult to do so in the wet conditions, as they obviously have to drive quite cautiously. The last thing they want is to end up with no points, particularly when the podium's on the line for all of them, and particularly when all of them are picking up penalties as well. They're also driving to that caution as well. Any penalty can ruin a driver's race completely, but Cortez, he is closing on Rattel, and he was thinking about it, weren't he, on the inside there? Just thinking about it, but not going for it. Full send, of course, like Verstappen says, send it. But no, Cortez decided just to hold back a little bit. Perhaps he's one of those conservative drivers, but if he does want to go and get the race win, he does need to get past these guys quickly, so he's probably just settling in for a podium. He knows Jensen hasn't got a penalty probably at the moment, but that shouldn't really stop him from going for things, because if he went for a move, went for the win, or if he went for the win now, Jensen could pick up a penalty. Not always out of the question, but Cortez obviously doesn't want to make any mistakes. He knows there's a good redemption chance for last time out. But Orica, he is in P2. He's sitting behind Jensen at the moment, 9 tenths behind Rattel Stifler in P3, and Cortez, he's right behind him in P4, and I'm not sure what's going on here, but Cortez has got by, and I said I wanted an overtake, but I didn't want to see an overtake like that. It literally just looked like the netcode was broke me for a second. But anyway, Rattel Stifler, he's looking to come back at him actually at the moment, but no, sits in behind. It just looks like the Haas driver's got more grip, doesn't it, at the moment, as he moves up to P3, and he'll stay in P3 for now. And that is the way the cookie crumbles. So for Rattel Stifler, it looks like he has lost out, and it looks like he is going to fall behind them now. So Cortez has got by, but how much time has that lost him? That's probably lost him a lot. It doesn't look like Rattel Stifler is literally closing on that Haas driver, so could be a problem. Or could be an issue that Cortez just didn't get by quick enough. He may have had the pace to potentially win this race, who knows. But Orica, F1 Orica, in his Mercedes, he's sitting in P2 right now. He's just about lingering within the second of IFR Jensen. But Jensen's got it quite comfortable, I would say, from now on. But Rattel Stifler, he's sitting behind. He's 8 tenths behind at the moment, 9 tenths behind. It's just a bit of a gap now between those three. It's Devon trying to close in on Lewis now. So Lewis's race has been pretty much ruined, hasn't it? Unfortunately. What could have been a good performance for him has really, really gone. As Lewis decides to pit. So he's going for fastest lap, I'm guessing, then is the Ferrari driver. But yeah, it's been a disappointing race, let's be honest. Overall, it's not been the most funnest of races. It's been just sitting back. But yeah, the action's been quite saturated, but Jensen, he leads at the moment with 4 laps to go. Potentially an easy move. But yeah, Jensen leads the way then from Orica, from Cortez, from Stifler. These look like your top 4 for the end of the race. Sem, he's not closed in enough for that gap. And the Blaze, of course, in P4 as well. But yep, Jensen leading the way. Orica P2, Cortez P3, and Rattel P4. That is the way things look like they're finishing. And unfortunately, there's just no battling available. It's very, very difficult. As I've accidentally dropped my controller. I do apologise. But anyway. But yeah, Jensen leading the way, lap 24 of 27. From Orca. Orca's just not closing in. In fact, Cortez is closing in, so we could get a little bit of a battle towards the end. So yeah, good chance now for Cortez. Sorry, I just saw something funny there pop up there. But anyway, at the moment, Cortez just trying to close in as Rattel Stifler's fell behind all these guys. So I've missed that. Rattel Stifler has most likely made a mistake over pushing the car, over driving the car. He's now behind Ablaze and Sem at the moment, but they are miles behind this battle for P2, which looks like it could be a final lap showdown. But yeah, look, here we go. Cortez closing in on Orica, and Orica just not really threatened by Cortez. Perhaps obviously Jensen be the only one, but Jensen obviously not threatened by someone with a penalty, particularly this late in the race. But yeah, Orica, he has fell behind Cortez then. Cortez is gone. In fact, Orica's actually off the track, so Orica's had a huge mistake, and that's a 10-second time penalty for him. And Sem is going to close in on him. And Sem potentially looking for a podium now, surprisingly. So Sem, we're very pleased with that. A podium off Orica. But, oh, and no, Sem's got a puncher. Oh my goodness, this race has gone... What? It's going to get wild now. Alright, I was not expecting this, ladies and gentlemen. We have got puncher territory tyres at the moment. As Sem has got one. He hasn't opted for the pits, which is more interesting than not. And, oh, yep, there he goes. He's spinning round. Luckily, the ghosting system has worked for him. But this is a huge trouble for all these drivers. With 2 laps to go, someone has a puncher. Watch out for their front left, because the front left looks like the one that is getting it. And this could be very compromising for Jensen's race. He came out earlier with pretty much a gamble. And the gamble, particularly for Sem, has not paid off. Jensen, who's been in free air for the majority of this race, this could strike him at any moment. He's got 2 laps to get to the line. Cortez is closing on him as well. He's got to really nurse those tyres if he's going to make it to the end, because that's going to be very difficult. And Sem, it's very unfortunate, isn't it? It looked like for a moment he was going to finish quite highly, and it's just not the case in the end. Oh, Cortez goes wide. So Jensen's given a little bit of breathing space for now. And Orca and I think Tom Robbo is battling with Menno. Not what Menno would like to see, but there goes Cortez. He possibly now is in the favouritehood to win this race, just simply because of the potential puncher that we could see from any of these drivers. A lot of these drivers are on the same lap as Sem, so whether that was just a setup thing for Sem, as he's all the way at the back here. He's so struggling on this final lap. Then IFI Jensen, he's got not long to go. He needs to be so careful, particularly on that front left. Watch that front left. That front left could be very much so big in terms of who wins this race. Cortez, he's just not going to close in enough, is he, to potentially have a look on Jensen. He will definitely need to rely on a potential puncher for the McLaren driver. Locking up's not going to be very good on those tyres. Be awesome if we had like a, if we had a thing which showed the tyre things like they show the AWS graphic right now. It would really, really be useful. But IFI Jensen, he's still leading this race. It's very close between the two of them. He's got to be so careful. I think Rattel Stifler has been the next victim of a puncher. Oh, how terrible would it be if IFI Jensen gets one now? And I wasn't expecting this right at the end to see punchers come into play, and punchers look like they have. But for Jensen, he's kept a clean race. It does look like he's just about to take a race victory. He could still get a puncher. That could cost him, but he's going to take it very cautiously to the end. And that was the final corner he had to navigate. DRS would have been open in the dry. It's not in the dry, but IFI Jensen takes the second victory of the season. And I tell you what, he obviously really had to nurse those tyres right to the line then, did the McLaren. He's got it to the line, and that's him finishing on the podium. WRR Blaze picks up a podium. That's a bit of a surprise there. Orica P5, P6. He's tumbling down after that 10-second penalty he picked up. Law finishes P4. Devon P5. Had to pit early on for what I presume is wing damage. He cost Menno in P7. Tom Robbo finishes P8. Rattel Stifler, who I again presume had a puncher, but he actually doesn't have a puncher there. So he's obviously just messed up somewhere. And Lewis finishes inside the points in P10. No points again for Kryptonite in his Alpine. And no points for Sem. I mean, unfortunate for Sem. It could have been a podium here tonight. Obviously, he was the one on the tyre strategy, and the tyre strategy hasn't exactly that great. So Sem, he has fallen quite far away. But yeah, Sem and Kryptonite, they will finish us off. But it is this man who's won, and he's still not got a puncher on that front left. So Sem, very unfortunate then, really. Otherwise, his tyre temperatures, his tyre temperatures must have been, well, sorry, his tyre degradation must have been absolutely awful. I believe he was the only one who actually got a puncher in the end. So rather strange for Sem. But anyway, we don't need to worry about it too much, as there we see Jensen, a pretty dominant, pretty clear look ahead then for him, and I believe now for him it'll move him well up the championship order. I don't think it'll take him to top spot, but he will definitely move well up. Joey had a job today to potentially take the lead in the championship. Hasn't really worked for him, has it? So he hasn't taken the lead. But yeah, I think IFR Jensen will be very happy with that. He looked quick in Bahrain. He said he could have got pole position, and he looks quick here tonight as well in France. Cortez finishes P2. Another good show from the Portuguese driver. Just not enough to take the race win though. WR plays from P11 to P3. Strong performance from him. McLaren and Haas, though, very strong, both of them. A 1-3 and a 2-4 for them. AlphaTauri in 5th with VER Devon. Orica in P6. Menno P7. Tom Bravo finishes P8. Rattel Stifler P9. And Lewis will finish in P10 from P14. And he also takes the fastest lap as well. So, well up for Lewis there. Gets himself 2 points. And here are the drivers outside the top 10. Don't even need to go down. Only need to go down one. And pretty much all of them DNF'd anyway. So with that, ladies and gentlemen, of course, we had to wrap up the stream here tonight, of course, for F3, where hopefully we'll be back. Well, we will be back next week for round 3 in Belgium. F1 is on right now. I'm not sure if it's just started in terms of the race, or it's right at the end of qualifying, or obviously it's in the interval. It's going to be very close. Just pop over there now just to check where we're at and who's got pole and everything like that. It looks like we're still in qualifying, ladies and gentlemen, in that. And my pixelated screen doesn't exactly want to work for me at the moment. I want to know who's on pole. Oh, predictable. It is CRG Blizzard on pole position for that one. But anyway, ladies and gentlemen, we are going to end it here. Good evening. I've been Sam, your commentator. I hope you join us next week for Belgium, where hopefully I'll be back with Noah. But for now, good night.